Vanos. It sounds like Thanos, that evil supervillain guy. And to some, if you've heard this sound, it might as well be the same thing. But outside of expensive repair bills, Vanos has to do something, right? Correct you would be. Believe it or not, before Honda's VTEC existed, BMW had the same thing called Vanos, but it was considerably more complicated. So today we're going to open up this high mileage E36 M3's S52 engine, explain what Vanos is, how it works, explain why it's actually a good technology, and then we're going to figure out what went wrong when I was working on my Vanos system last winter. How does Vanos work? Like VTEC, Vanos is a form of engine variable valve timing technology. Variable valve timing is an engine technology that allows an engine to effectively have multiple camshaft profiles. A retarded state for better fuel economy and less horsepower, and an advanced state that allows more air and fuel into the combustion chamber, netting in worse fuel economy but more horsepower. It's a cool technology that allows you to sort of get the best of both worlds within one engine without making sacrifices. This S52 engine has BMW's earliest form of Vanos called single Vanos, which means it only has variable valve timing on the intake camshaft. And unlike the later infinitely variable Vanos unit systems, this one only has two positions, a retarded state and an advanced state, similar to Honda's VTEC from the 90s. But different from Honda's VTEC, which has two individual camshaft profiles, Vanos only has one. So that might beg the question then, if there's only one cam profile in this engine, how do we get multiple camshaft profiles? I'm gonna pull up my technical shop glasses and the manual I wrote for myself so that I don't mess up, explaining to you all how this very, but also not very complicated engine technology works. So, the Vanos system, similar to VTEC, is an oil pressure controlled system, and it works as follows. Many times per second, perhaps even too many to count, the camshaft position sensor is telling the ECU where the camshaft is. The ECU then looks at engine speed, load, and other factors. Based on this information, the ECU decides if the engine needs more horsepower. If it does, the ECU then activates the Vanos solenoid. Activating the Vanos solenoid redirects oil flow to the Vanos from the Vanos oil feed line. This oil pushes a piston into the camshaft's helical gear, thus physically changing the angle in which the cam is positioned towards the valves, advancing the camshaft timing. So instead of having two separate camshaft profiles, like VTEC, BMW uses some engineering trickery to achieve the same result with a single camshaft profile. Pretty neat technology. I hope I effectively explained how Vanos works. It's kind of complicated, but when you actually break it down, you look at it, you think about it, it sort of makes sense. So now we have a friend coming out to help us diagnose the Vanos problem on our dreaded P1519 code that we've had on this engine, figure out where I went wrong, and we're gonna fix it. By the end of this video, this engine will make all of its horsepower again. That's good. Oh boy. Oh, I was gonna get a close-up shot of that in a second for B-roll. With me today, we have my friend Ben. We met up a little while ago. We did a video with his car. We were talking about high mileage BMW problems, but he's a mechanical engineer and he knows a lot about these engines. Ben, tell us what you think is probably wrong with this engine. What did I screw up on install of the head gasket and the Vanos assembly?
Well, there's a lot of things that you can mess up when timing one of these engines. One of two things has happened. Either cams are not timed correctly, or essentially the Vanos piston is traveled out, doesn't have its full range of motion, which is causing a code. So one of the things we're gonna do is look in the BMW maintenance software and check the intake cam timing with the Vanos activated and not activated to see, do we get the full change of advance or not, and what those numbers actually are, and that'll give us an idea of what is the issue.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and get the INPA hooked up, get a battery hooked up to this thing, and then we'll take a look at the numbers and we'll fix it. All right, go ahead and start it.
All right.
Before we continue, let me give some context as to what is happening right now. Currently, we are looking at the camshaft position degree on the BMW INPA software. On this E36 BMW, the Vanos unactivated number should be about 15 degrees, and the number when the Vanos is activated should read about 40 degrees. At idle, mine is reading less than 2 degrees. This means my cam timing is too far retarded and needs to be advanced. Already found one issue. Our friend Ben has created a tool that will allow us to manually activate the Vanos solenoid. We are going to manually activate the Vanos solenoid to make sure that I get about 25 degrees of cam timing in advance. Normally, these numbers would be 15 and 40 degrees respectively. Since my cam timing is too retarded, mine should read about 26. If we get less than a 25 degree increase, that would mean that the Vanos has limited travel and is getting caught, therefore not being able to fully advance the timing, which is a separate issue. Now, Ben is going to explain to us how the tool he created works, and then we're going to show it in action.
Okay, so what we have is a 11.1 volt lithium polymer battery. Doesn't have to be this, could be any 12 volt source to power this. I made a simple harness with a Dean's connector to plug in here. And this goes to a switch and a standard Bosch connector. This is what the Vanos solenoid connector is. Now, the reason I have this separate battery is because when we were working on the engine, we don't have the 12 volt main car battery connected. So it's kind of inconvenient to get a 12 volt source. So having a separate dedicated harness to power the solenoid is pretty easy. So it's got this nice little switch on it with a light. You just have to make sure that you get the polarity right for your solenoid. And
As you learn the hard way.
As I learned the hard way. The Vanos solenoid has a diode inside of it. So if you hook it up backwards, you will fry it, essentially.
Yeah, so make sure this is correct.
So double check the polarity. It's actually written on the solenoid itself what the positive and minus are. So just make sure you get that correct. But otherwise, pretty simple. You hook this up to the solenoid. You can turn it on, turn it off while the engine's running, or you can connect air to it, as you'll see in the video, and it'll actuate the solenoid.
Actuate the solenoid, yeah. So we're manually activating the solenoid, which will activate the Vanos. So then you can check the travel using the BMW input software to check the degrees and see if it's turning all the way. Yep.
K1 main. And I've already verified the polarity on this. Let me just double check it. Put this in. It's not going to do anything until I put the switch.
Right.
Now we should hear the engine change.
Yep. They just turn it on and off?
Yeah, so I just turn it on. It started advancing the cam.
Oh, look at that.
Now, let's see what the numbers are. So we'll turn this on. Hopefully it doesn't stall. 27.
Okay. And now it's misfiring horribly.
Yeah.
Right, because it's advancing the cam idle.
And that goes
Back to, oh, that's so cool.
So the cam is timed incorrectly, which is why it's setting the code.
So there's more horsepower left on the table.
Correct.
Yeah! Let's go! This is gonna be a power mod today, ladies and gentlemen.
What we have here is a mag base and dial indicator.
Yep.
So what we're gonna do is back the engine up just a little bit. Watch what the chain does. It's gonna compress it. See that? So when you approach top dead center, you always want to go in the forward engine rotation. So now, what we want to look for is when it stops moving up, and that's TDC. Yeah, now it's going to start going down.
Yep.
See that?
Yep. So how do you know when it's at top dead center?
Right when it gets to the highest value, right there is TDC.
Okay, so now we're definitely TDC. Now do the lines line up?
On yours, pretty good.
So my lines are actually correct. I will say I did replace my harmonic balancer with a low mileage used one.
Yep.
Because my old one had some stress cracking in the rubber and it had a chip taken out of it actually, which to me was kind of sus. So I was lucky in that I found a low mileage one because they're like $600 from BMW, which is insanity.
Okay, so we verify we're at TDC.
Verify we're at TDC.
The cam you can visually see is off.
Right, the intake cam is a little bit off from the exhaust, which would indicate a problem. So we can't even put the cam lockers in place then, right?
It will not fit on, no.
No, it won't fit on until we adjust it. So basically what is our goal right now is we're going to try to get the camshaft to, or the cam lockers to essentially fit on without rotating the crank,
Yep.
and then we know we're at TDC.
Just a tiny bit. That should be about 30.
Right now, we are hooking up pressurized air to take place of what would be oil supply to the Vanos. When we activate the Vanos solenoid, it will allow the air to push the Vanos unit's helical gears into the camshaft, as oil would do when the engine is running.
Okay, so that's air pressure.
Okay. So what's gonna happen now?
So. Oh, might make a mess.
Well. Yeah, so we're gonna hook up a tool like this and manually actuate the Vanos. Make sure to put a towel, something over it so it doesn't spray all over your windshield. That was a little bit of oversight on our part, but that's okay.
So what we're gonna do is apply about 30 psi air pressure
Yep.
onto the solenoid.
We're gonna watch the cam actually move.
I'm gonna apply power to the solenoid.
Yep.
So that is the advanced state. If you're looking at the engine
Yep.
rotating clockwise this way,
Yep.
if I flip the switch and the cam rotates in that direction, it would be advanced.
Right.
And if you take a look in here, I'll try to cover up.
Yeah, we'll see if we can prevent oil.
Look at the piston, watch what it does. So you go in, out.
Right. And when you do that, the cam's like your turn. Do it a couple more times.
That's advanced. Retarded.
Genius.
Yep. So we verified you have full travel on the piston. It's simply timed incorrectly.
Right. So, who knew? It was my fault, which is kind of what we expected all along. Very cool stuff.
So when you time it, it's really important that the piston is all the way in, like that.
Right.
And you have all of the tension on the drive side of this.
Right.
chain.
So I don't think
So if I pull it this way, see how that collapses a little bit?
Yeah.
So what that means is if this is like this, watch what happens when I turn the engine clockwise.
Yeah.
The cam is not going to move until all the slack gets out of it.
Oh,
So
right.
when you timed yours, it was probably.
I'm actually noticed. Yeah, I'm looking at that right now because if you look at the tooth, it's approximately about what it would have.
Right? So
Yeah.
if I go like this, back, and that's all the slack out.
Yeah.
So if you go like this, but this is timed correctly, as soon as you get a little bit of tension on the chain,
Right.
it takes a little bit of a second before it actually starts rotating.
So you think that's basically what I did?
I think so.
Yeah. So to reset this, you said we basically
All we're
pull
gonna
it
do-
this way.
Go far back this way. We're gonna loosen all 4 of these exhaust cam bolts.
Yep.
So these are now loose,
Yep.
which means
Make adjustment.
the crank, I'm gonna move the crank. See that crank?
Crank can move
The
separate.
drive gear is
Oh.
now uncoupled from the cams.
So it can move independently within that sort of barrier
Correct. But to a point, now we're up
where it
against
catches
the
in the
stop.
gear. Yep.
So we're gonna go forward again. Always go forward when you're timing.
Yep.
Line that up, our TDC mark. Update the exhaust cam a little bit. There we go.
Yep.
Where this lines up, and then the same thing on the intake cam. Now, this is the tricky part.
Yep.
Once we get this to line up, we put this bolt in.
Cam lockers on.
Yep. And you just need to snug these. They don't need to be
That tight, yeah.
super tight. Okay, so now the cams should be where they are supposed to be.
Yep. So you moved the Vanos essentially
Vanos,
all the way.
If you look at the piston,
Yes.
it's part way out. So that is where this tool comes in. Because we need to rotate this all the way.
Are you gonna go clockwise or counter?
We need to make the piston go. It's kind of hard to do.
Yeah, I know. It's always
We can cheat a little bit.
use the
air.
helper of air.
So now you see that move?
Yep.
You see that move?
Yep.
Now I'm gonna go the other way. So this is the retarded state for idle.
Yep.
So the Vanos piston has to be all the way in for this step to work.
Right. So if I were rotating it with the tool, say I didn't have the air, am I pushing it this way?
Well, let's watch it again.
Yep.
So let's turn this on. This would be advanced.
Yep. Right.
So pulling that way to get it to go retarded. It's gonna go that way.
So you want it retarded. So with the tool, I'd essentially turn this way.
You're going to rotate it to take essentially in the engine forward direction. So
Right.
clockwise. With these bolts tight, you have some movement.
That's the degree in which the Vanos can turn within just this chain. So if you kept, in theory, turning the engine, you would eventually catch the slack here, and then it would turn both.
Yep.
So right, so that's how you could have both cams off, even though it's only single Vanos, just on the intake side.
Okay.
Because this chain and these cam gears right here allow for slack in both of them, but it only advances the intake relative to the exhaust cam and also relative to the crankshaft.
I'm just gonna do it.
That's a mouthful. Hopefully that made sense on video. I'm sort of understanding this myself. If you have any questions, comment down below. I'll try to explain as best as I can. Or Ben might pop in there from time to time.
Torque wrench.
Yes. What?
I'm trusting your torque wrench.
I trust that torque wrench. It's an icon.
Pounds, which is 20 Newton meters.
Yep. There you
There we go. And I'm just putting slight pressure here so we don't rotate the cam.
Right.
So we're getting close. Let's look at our TDC mark.
Yep. Make sure the cam lockers fit. Those still look slightly off, actually.
We may need to make a slight adjustment
On the intake,
on
yeah.
the intake. But it does fit, mostly.
So, is that within margin of error on the intake?
Probably okay. Honestly, we could put it together and it would run.
Yeah. Well, it was running before, and it was much worse before.
Honestly, that feels like exhaust to me.
Like the exhaust is off?
Yeah. So exhaust needs to go a little bit more. Like that. So, now this sort of falls on.
Right. Yeah, it's flush.
So the intake was right. We need to make a small adjustment on the exhaust.
Small adjustment on the exhaust. Okay, so then we loosen it back up, try again?
Yep, basically.
Okay. To recap what just happened, we got the camshaft timing much closer than it was before, but it is still slightly off on the exhaust side. So we loosened the exhaust cam gear bolts again so we can make further adjustment.
Clockwise. Clockwise.
Yeah, so they're fun. So now over on this side, you can see
It's flush here
flush.
and flush on the back as well.
Yep.
We'll check it one more time.
Doesn't hurt to check again.
Looks like we're good to go, because this thing is the money shot again.
Right, so we're in time now.
Yep.
Look at that. Well, moment of truth. We're gonna put it back together and turn it on and see if we get a check engine light. And we're gonna look at the cam timing numbers, or the cam degree angle on the BMW IMPA software and compare it to our numbers from before. That looks good. So we're gonna engage the solenoid. Oh, that's 40, yep. All right, you're good, turn it off. It shot up to 40 and now it's going back down.
That's about what I got.
Yep. So we did it. We'll plug the solenoid back in. He's doing that right now.
Fuel control, P1189, 88.
Let's just clear him. I bet
Yeah.
those won't come back.
Yeah.
There it is. That's the
Switch
40.
to-
All right, so just give some revs. Now I'm gonna give some revs. We're doing the gas pedal test. See if it feels better. There's our cam timer right there, 15 degrees. It's about normal on IMPA. When the Vanos activates, it should go to 40. Oh my God. That throttle response is so much better. back down. Check engine light has not come back. It most likely would have by now. So we're good. The road test will be this spring. We'll actually take it on the road and see the power difference. But yeah, that throttle response feels so much better on the gas pedal. I'm actually pretty excited about that. Oh my god, that's awesome. It's like a whole new car now. It also started much easier too. So I think that the car was really struggling to start because of the cam timing being off, and it wasn't building compression like it was supposed to. So yeah, this engine was already nice, but now it's really nice. I needed that today, guys. It's a nice little winter reset. Probably have like 3 more months before I take this car out again. Probably around late March. So that means we have time to fix the rest of what's wrong with this thing. But that was a big thing I was really concerned about, and now it's over. So yeah, it's pretty exciting. I wonder what the compression numbers read now. We fixed the cam timing, so in theory it should have higher compression now than it even did over the summer. And over the summer I already had like 170s, 180s, so it's a pretty healthy S52, I would say.
Are you sure it's possible?
It actually didn't start that hard.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah! Oh, and away, nice. Dude, this thing's crusty as shit.
Yep.
Holy, look how many fucking leaves are in here, dude. Man will see that and be like, hell yeah, brother. Look at that. $38. Alright, go ahead and move back. So by that logic, this car is off very slightly.
Yeah, but it's close.
It's pretty close. Way closer than mine was.
That's what I was saying. I wouldn't be surprised if it was off a little bit.
Right, so this is within... So this car is within the... What's the word I'm looking for?
Factory spec.
This car is within the factory spec or allowed tolerance, I suppose, for the Vanos, because this one isn't during check engine light. It makes all its power. Maybe it's down like 2 horsepower. Maybe.
It's also got 164,000 miles, so it's one of those two things.
Yeah, it's got 164,000 miles, which is less than my car and his car. But the Vanos on both of ours are much newer than this one. This one hasn't been opened up since 2016. So that's the difference of what happens over time. Honestly, really cool stuff. God, it looks so sad.